This is a special edition of the podcast about how to start your own business in just 5 days. Now that sounds like a wild promise. Let me convince you. Most people think that starting a business is a very elaborate process. It doesn't necessarily need to be. Essentially, all you need to do right at the beginning of starting a business is prove that you can create something people want, and the way you prove that is by getting them to buy it. You can actually do all of this part of the process without having to set up a website, without having an elaborate social media strategy, and without needing to set up terribly complex marketing funnels to capture email addresses and so on. In fact, we're going to go through this entire process in a free 5-day business startup challenge, which starts on Monday, the 11th of May. You can join that by going to theideaslab.org and clicking on the 5-day challenge banner there. So I'm going to go through how that actually works and try to explain this way of thinking about businesses that makes things so much faster and so much more effective. And the way we do that is in the 5-day business startup challenge, we go through day by day with simple little lessons. And you can follow this process yourself and apply it to any business you want to start. But day one, we focus on what is the niche that you can choose that is going to make your business successful. And by niche, I mean a particular kind of person who's really going to resonate with what you do, or a particular kind of company if you're selling to companies, or it could be a particular problem that you solve, or it could be a need that you know you'd be great at helping with. And it's this zooming in process that starts to have an impact very quickly. Instead of describing yourself as, I'm a project manager, I'm a Six Sigma consultant, I'm a life coach, whatever it is that your skill set is, by zooming into something people actually want and thinking about it in terms of the target market, you're already taking a giant leap ahead of how most people think about businesses. Now, on day 2 of the 5-day business challenge, we then get really specific and we think about that niche market. And we explore what is a very real pressing pain or problem or need that they have right now. Now, you've probably heard this before, I'm sure. Sell to the pain, sell to the problem. And we've all heard it, but too many of us just simply don't do it. Because this is where we have to really get inside the head of the person who's going to be your buyer, describe it in their language, and imagine what their life is like today. Whether it's an individual buying your course or workshop or event or even a book or a service or software, or it's a company that's buying something for their staff to use to improve productivity or morale or some sort of training product, whatever it is, you need to get inside the head of that person who's going to write you the check and think about how they look at the problem. What are they worried about? What are they fed up with? What is frustrating them? Why, when they've looked at the other options that they could be spending money on, why has it not looked like the right thing for them? So that's what we get into on day 2 of the 5-day business startup challenge. And this really starts to shine a light on things that you might never have thought of before. On the 3rd day, we get into an offer. What can you actually specifically put together to somebody for your target market, but they're going to appreciate, that they're going to be happy to buy? So this is where we get into all the specifics, which is always good fun for me because I get to share lots of my expertise around this topic. The specifics of what do you name a service? What do you name a consultancy package? How do you structure your pricing? How do you, is this going to be a membership program? Do you deliver it online? Is it in person? Does it have a community element on Facebook? Or is this something you deliver to people one-to-one in some different kind of way? So this is where we start to work out the fine detail of one thing you could offer that could make you a really good amount of money. And the reason for doing that is because when we take it out of this generality of your skill set and all the things you could help with and bring it down to one thing that people can buy that solves one particular problem and that is going to delight them after they've experienced it, then you've got the core of a business. Now, day 4 on the 5-day business startup challenge is about becoming more visible. How do we go out and start to tell people about this thing that we've created? So we've just designed an offer that solves a problem for a particular niche market. How do we start to communicate that? And we have some very specific ways of sharing that, of finding the right people, putting the message in front of them, and as quickly as possible, starting to get into a conversation with those people. So while you might set up all those elaborate marketing strategies later of a consistent social media posting program and email marketing funnels, maybe running adverts and so on, at the beginning, we just need to get enough people into conversation with you that you can get clarity over whether your offer is going to work, and probably even try selling it to them for the first time. Because once somebody buys your offer, then you know that you've got the heart of a business starting to take shape. And in fact, that's what our focus is on day 5. How can you actually go and make some money straight away? And I'm often telling my clients on programs like the Pioneer Program, but also on the 5-day business startup challenge, how can you do this without building a website? If you don't have one right now, how can you do this in the simplest way possible? Forget the business cards, forget anything that's going to delay you. You feel tempted to spend a day on or several days on to get it perfect. Forget all of that and get into conversation with people who could be your buyers. So that's what we're going to look at on day 5. How can we do that as quickly as possible? So what happens if you follow this process is you move about 10 times faster than your average person when they first go into business. This, by the way, is also very relevant for anybody who already has a business, or perhaps you're freelancing, perhaps you're consulting, and you want to make what you offer far more compelling. You want to pull yourself out of that space of commoditization. And what I mean by that is, if you're already working for yourself in some form as a freelancer or consultant, as I say, what you might find is that people just compare you against other people with the same skill set and say, well, you're more expensive. This person's quite good over here. I'll just go with them. Instead of that, we're going to take you through that process in 5 days where you create an offer that is not quite like anybody else's. It's got you running through the heart of it. It's an offer that it's a program or service or product that you would love creating and delivering. And nobody else can quite do it like you. And once you've got something like that, it really does unlock a whole new world for you. And there's no reason why once you've done that once, you can't come along and add other products that are more expensive or lower price, maybe some sort of membership program where people pay you every month for something, alongside your core offer that you got going first. So if you're sitting there thinking about, how do I get my business idea off the ground, or how do I get this idea in your current work, if it's for perhaps a new course you want to run or a new workshop, please, I'd love you to join us on the free 5-day business startup challenge. Simply go to theideaslab.org, click on the panel at the top that talks about the 5-day challenge, and you can register in there. You need to do that before Monday, the 11th of May. So you better do that fairly quickly. And even if you've done the 5-day challenge before, like I said, we had over 1,000 people registered for it last time. You might well want to come back again and go through the whole process again, get further clarity, or perhaps experiment with a new idea that you want to put out into the world. So if that interests you, do check out theideaslab.org and register. I'd love to see you in there. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ideas Lab podcast. Please do subscribe, and if you've enjoyed this episode, it would be great if you could leave us a review. You can get links and details of everything mentioned in the podcast in the show notes, along with photos and video clips from many of our episodes. Just go to theideaslab.org/podcast.